Hello, how is it going? Welcome. It is November 22nd. Yes, the day before Thanksgiving. We're doing it. People said it couldn't be done. I felt like proving them wrong. It is a RambleCast. Actually, people said it probably shouldn't be done, and I don't know that I disagree with them. But, regardless, yeah, it's happening. So, how's everyone doing? I hope it is a good, short week for most people, and a profitable week for those who are stuck working. Or at least as close as you can get. Anyway, so surprisingly, I think no one saw this coming. It's been a wild week. Lots of stuff happening in all sorts of ways, shapes, and forms. Let's see, where do I even start? I haven't even thought where this goes. Let's just start with, I think this is now actually kind of an old story. Hey, Austin, how's it going? But nothing has removed its chatting app that was supposed to end the blue bubble scourge. Yeah, this turned out to be one of the dumbest stories that I think could have ever come about. For those that don't know, the quick recap, Nothing, the company started by Carl Pei, who is he was OnePlus, right? Yeah, they tried launching an app. It basically imitates being a Apple device, or from the user's perspective, it imitates being an Apple device, and it makes it so you appear as a blue bubble. You get the features of iMessage mostly, or enough of them, blah blah blah. Well, so under the hood, it was using a service called Sunbird. Sunbird is very literally just taking Apple devices, hooking them up to the network, and using that as a bridge system with its own app. So anyway, it turned out that this was a bad idea. Not for any of the reasons that I think we all knew it was a bad idea. All different reasons it was a bad idea. These include, well, okay, so the reasons I think most people expected this to just go south is it was basically inevitable that someday Apple was going to kill this. And as we now know, and I'm not sure that this will even be warranted as a topic today, because again, it's been talked to death, but as we all know, Apple has now announced that they're going to support RCS. So whether or not people want to be on the iMessage network, it's iffy. Anyway, so in theory, that probably would have more or less killed Sunbird's business, and by proxy would have effectively killed Nothing Chats, but whatever. Anyway, some of the reasons that this turned out to be a bad idea is either Nothing or not OnePlus, but either Nothing or Sunbird, it's a little unclear who still, decided that all messages should be transmitted in HTTP unencrypted. So right out of the gate, terrible idea. There were signs that Sunbird was basically recording all of the sent messages, which I can forgive the Verge for misreporting this, but some of the people who were involved in exposing this little detail do not seem to understand what they were saying. It's actually kind of comical how big of a misunderstanding they're making, but that's neither here nor there. Regardless, apparently they are very much logging user messages. So there's a lot going wrong in this whole equation. Anyway, Nothing pulled the Chats app from the Google Play Store. There are rumors that Google was actually planning on killing this on their own, or they were about to, and just didn't get to pulling the plug before nothing took down the app. And we all know how quickly Google tends to work on things like this, so that's not super surprising that they didn't quite get there first. But yeah. Though I have heard separately that Google may have communicated with nothing to the effect of don't ever do this again. But since it's a big enough company, they're not just getting banned outright. Let's be honest. If this was a regular, like, low-level developer that had, you know, maybe combined 50,000 downloads or something, if Google had similar concerns with them, it would have just been an outright ban. I noticed one of my phones woke up to me repeatedly saying Big G's names, so I have to mute stuff. Anyway, so this absolute disaster zone of a failure has pretty much thrown nothing for a loop. I think they have been sufficiently embarrassed by this. Funny enough, it has also had another side effect. Sunbird is now temporarily shutting down its app. So they have basically admitted that there are some quote-unquote security concerns and have now taken the step of shutting down their service, and they are presumably going to go back through and fix things before relaunching. I don't know. I'm not really sure what their goal is. And truthfully, I don't think they have one. I mean, that just kind of goes without saying. And given that Apple, again, is going to be bringing RCS to the show, yeah, I just can't shake that feeling that Sunbird's business is kind of on a ticking clock for how useful it is, or how useful it will remain. And whether or not people want to stay on it is pretty low likelihood, I would think. With that said, I will also bring up that I guess may as well actually take a minute or two. Why would anyone use Sunbird over Beeper anyway? I honestly don't know. To be honest, I don't know anything about Beeper. I've heard of Sunbird several times. I don't think I've heard of Beeper, or if I have, it's not a lot. So yeah, I don't know on that one. My hunch is they have better marketing. I know that sounds simplified, but the mere fact that I've heard of Sunbird so many more times, I think, is a sign that they just simply have more attention on them, which probably came from spending more on trying to be noticed. But regardless, I think Sunbird is probably not going to stay long for this world after this. It's hard to picture. Well, sorry, when I say after this, well, no, actually after this. After they take down their app, in all likelihood, it's a short road to probably killing the company. Because once they bring the app back, the most they're really going to do is... have maybe a year of useful life before Apple launches RCS. On that topic, I may as well at least quickly do the addressing of it. Yeah, Apple announced RCS is coming. I'm not even going to bother pulling up a page for this because everyone's read about it. Everyone's heard it. There is actually very little news here. There's a lot in theory that could be talked about and pondered, and maybe at a future point, Corbin and I will actually just hash this one out. But at this stage, I think, one, we know so little about it. Apple only announced, to be clear, Apple only announced that they are going to support RCS. They gave a date of 2024. Actually, I believe they said next year, but, 2024. And they confirmed that RCS messages will still be green bubbles, whereas iMessage will remain blue bubbles. What does any of this mean beyond that? Who knows? We've all said it in chat. or in Discord, there's going to be, Apple's still not through with screwing around with this. They obviously aren't. There's still going to be features that aren't implemented. They're still going to try to stigmatize it, which the green bubble, blue bubble thing will be just sort of the first part of that. There will be more. And, you know, sure, if they implement it correctly, things like group chats, read receipts, if you want them on, and a few other things will be enabled and presumably work. We'll see how that goes. I mean, this is the thing about Apple being able to implement it however they like. They can implement it however they like, which means in some cases they might not implement some things. In some cases they might use excuses not to support or implement everything. There's a lot of ways this can just simply go wrong because of course it can. Nevertheless, you know, RCS is coming, so yay. As far as release date, I am firmly locked into the theory that they will release it with the next iPhone. It will be a quiet release. Well, we'll see on that one. I half expect that when they do the iPhone announcement, I don't think we're going to hear much of anything between now and the next iPhone announcement. But when they do the iPhone 16, I think they will go up on stage. They will take, like, I'm going to guess a minute, maybe less, maybe a little more, you know, it's going to be in the neighborhood of a minute though. And they're going to say something to the effect of, you know, we get it. Some people would like to talk to iPhone users, or iPhone users would like to talk to some other people. And, you know, it's going to be a very subtle jab at Google's marketing. And then they'll say RCS is now supported. And they'll say like one or two other things, maybe show a screen, and then just flat move on. I think they will give this so little attention, it's going to be ridiculous. Mostly because I think they don't want it to be seen as Google winning. Anyway, so yeah, that'll be the, at least that's my belief in the extent to which they're going to want to talk about that. So let's see. All right, that was the first part of the chaos. Sorry, I'm quickly moving around tabs. Oh, we might as well talk about, man, I'm trying to decide where I want to fit OpenAI into this. But before we go to OpenAI, let's talk about Twitter. Good old Twitter. Twitter has been losing advertisers. Oh my god, Twitter's losing advertisers. They have dumpster dove at this point trying to get money, and they're practically losing more in the process. So in the last I think it's a little over a week. I'm not sure how far back a couple of these names go, but some of the big names that were really big spenders on Twitter for a long time. Here are just a few of them that are recent departures. Apple, Disney, Comcast, IBM, Warner Brothers, Paramount, and Lionsgate. And those aren't the only ones, but holy crap. Apple's marketing budget has famously been huge. And Twitter was actually one of their bigger spins for a long time. Not as big as Facebook, but, you know, still huge. Disney used to advertise quite a bit on Twitter. I honestly don't know how much Comcast advertised, but I'm assuming it was quite a bit. IBM, oh my god, I shouldn't have even seen IBM ads, and I saw them. Like, that, they were spending a lot of money. And then you look at, I mean, Warner Brothers, Paramount, and Lionsgate, like, they were advertising movies. Movie advertising on Twitter has always been huge. These are some of the companies that you don't want to lose, because this is massive money. And if I remember, though not sure it was part of this article. Twitter's advertising revenue, or maybe it was, yeah, the ad revenue fell 54.4% since last year. Over half of their advertising revenue is gone. Gone. That's devastating. And Elon Musk has said it's actually 60%. So regardless, however you want to do the math, this is crazy. The amount that they are losing is off the charts. Don't get me wrong. I mean, technically, some other companies have seen bigger losses in shorter times, but not many. So Twitter is tumbling. Actually, Twitter is on its way to being Tumblr. Anyway, the reason that I had to bring this one out, they also just lost 1111 Media. This is Paris Hilton's venture. I don't know too much about it, but basically I do know that they have a lot of they have their fingers in a lot of things, or they're trying to at least. And for whatever reason, 1111 Media was actually aiming to be kind of a cross. These are all quality jokes you come here for. Dare I ask which joke? I don't even I've already spaced on what I've said. Oh, please tell me it's the Tumblr thing, because that was completely at random. Anyway, the 1111 Media partnership, apparently, at least according to this, they were... Yes, okay. Hey, I do not promise high quality. But the 1111 Media partnership is, at least this article mentions, this was not just an advertising spin. This was actually like kind of a collaboration between the two. 1111 was going to actually highlight a lot of new features that were being announced on Twitter. And Twitter, in turn, was carrying some of 1111 Media's branding, in a sense. Like the X logo that's here, that apparently was actually designed by them and presumably contributed either for free or for a flat fee. It's not entirely clear. And who cares? But yeah, this has been a this is certainly more than just an ad buy. Just flat out, this is more than an ad buy. And Twitter in turn was supposed to sort of bring something to 1111 Media, plus there was going to be an ad buy, or a fairly significant ad buy. Well, apparently that's all over. So this is yet another company that is stepping away. And this is taking with it more than just ad dollars. This is actually taking away, like, the ability to start bringing people back to Twitter via other means. And a lot of this is all linked to anti-Semitic comments, but that's not, realistically, that's not everything. There's hate speech of all different kinds. A lot of these advertisers, if they spoke about anything, it usually wasn't just the anti-Semitism and pro-Nazi messaging. It's that there's a string of problems. And others have even cited, I forget who it was, but one of them even cited that they were pretty sure they weren't getting what they paid for in terms of advertising. Like, the level to which companies just do not like or trust Twitter is off the charts. And I feel like this just needs to be pointed out. There was a headline on The Verge that it's no longer the headline on the article, but it is still visible on this page. And I think it might have just been an intentional thing, but apparently Linda Yaccarino, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, has apparently said that advertisers fleeing from X are just, quote, temporarily paused investments. Really? Really, Linda? Temporarily paused? Oh, honey, no. No, that's not temporarily paused. That's like people are stopping checks. Like the stop payments are happening. There, you guys are sitting there with your wang in your hands, being like, yeah, no, we don't know what to do anymore. And I mean, people have said it. I think we all know it's true. Those subscriptions for the blue check marks, yeah, they're not going to pay the way. The user numbers are falling. Twitter is in the toilet. My advice, my professional advice to Elon Musk right now, I'm going to give this advice. Sell. Find anybody. Find anyone that will take it. Sell. Take your loss. Eat the 20-some billion dollars. That's real. Eat, I think it's what, 24 to 25 billion dollar loss you've had in a year. Eat it. Tax write-off time, bro. Eat it. Just get rid of this. Unload it now, because within the next year you're gonna lose another 10. I'm just calling this right now. Twitter will be down to 10 billion in value by the next year. So yeah, there's my prediction. And honestly, I think that's optimistic. It's very possible it's going to be less. Or worth less by that stage. So let's see what else. Okay, so another quickie. I'm actually kind of running through quick. This is going to be a relatively quick stream. Unless anyone has any other topics that they want to suggest, because I'm sure there's honestly surprisingly plenty. But let's do a quick call out session. Yeah, this is a bit of a call out session. There was a story that apparently YouTube was slowing down Firefox. For those that haven't heard or don't know, this story basically started on Reddit. The claim was that people with Firefox visiting YouTube were experiencing a automatic 5-second delay before video pages would load. So you could presumably visit the like the feed or your subscriptions page. Those apparently didn't have this, but if you visited the video pages, then there would be an automatic 5-second delay, and yeah, that was basically it. So sorry, let's restart this video. This is what it would look like. They'd click on the video, it would just sit there paused, showing this sort of empty screen for a while, and then it would load into the video. So you can replicate this. It's easy enough. All you have to do is install Firefox, set it up, install any ad blocker, and then visit YouTube. That apparently is all it takes. You know, just install ad blockers on Firefox and visit YouTube. That's it. Install ad blockers. I don't, you know, that's it. Fun fact, you can actually replicate this experience more or less by installing ad blockers on Chrome and any other browser. You can actually not replicate this experience by installing Firefox, not installing an ad blocker, and going to YouTube. Yeah, that's the catch. What a lot of people on Reddit apparently weren't realizing is that they didn't install, or that they were trying to visit with an ad blocker, and apparently they weren't getting YouTube's like warning message that says you should be using, or you should not use an ad blocker with YouTube. At least for non-premium members, that is. I guess this shows up on Chrome pretty consistently, but it wasn't showing up on Firefox every time, or not correctly in most instances. So that was the real issue. Okay, now Reddit getting something wrong, I'm kind of used to it. In fact, I accept that it's just standard practice for Reddit to just get a lot of stuff wrong. Hacker News, apparently, similar situation. I guess both of them were railing against this. Here's the thing. I'm okay with, well, I'm not okay with it. I'm always going to mock Reddit and Hacker News for kind of having these runaway fearmonger stories. But I am going to blame somebody else. I'm going to blame all the tech sites. I have a couple in mind I specifically would love to call out, but I'm not going to because, well, I think someone could guess why not. But a lot of tech sites covered this straight. They did not test it. They did not check it. They just covered it straight. They loaded up Firefox, which plenty of editors and writers have installed, usually with ad blockers. They loaded up Firefox and tried it. And that's the result they got. Some of them didn't even bother installing Firefox. They used, and some of them very proudly even claimed that they tested this themselves. And sure enough, they used a user agent switcher so that they could imitate Firefox. Guess what happened? They also didn't turn off their ad blockers. Lo and behold, still broken. This happened to a lot of people. And so they covered it. A lot of sites didn't really test this. They just tested the bare minimum. Most of them somehow not considering that an ad blocker was the real problem. I know specific people who did this. I'm not going to name them. I think it's easy again to go find the sites that I'd probably be referencing and call them out for it. Anyway, yeah, so this is yet again another reason why I love to basically say tech blogs, some of them are certainly well-meaning and they do a good job. Some of them try to get this stuff right. And some of them really don't. Not only that, but tech blogs, if you're going to do a good job, especially if you're going to cover things that are kind of like this, where the notion of the story is that something went wrong somewhere and it is broken or causing a problem. If that's a story that you're going to write about, you need to have somebody who knows what they're doing. And when I say knows what they're doing, I mean not just somebody who kind of knows how to like set up a torrent client and knows a little bit about what VPNs can do. I'm talking about bring on people who are really technical. You have to have them because they will do the job of sitting down and saying, okay, what are there other reasons for this? Can we figure out what the other factors might be? Any reason, and this story, frankly, shouldn't have even required that. But somebody out there should have been able to stop and say, wait a second. YouTube's the last story anyone covered about YouTube prior to this was YouTube is trying to take on ad blockers. So can we maybe make an assertion that the most recent piece of news may be somehow tied to this? Somebody should have been able to come up with that. And funny enough, a lot of us did. This story got mass publication all over the internet. And I mean, I was sitting in a Discord room when this story came out, and the very first thing half of us said is, well, did they try this with an ad blocker or not? Literally before anyone even proved that this story was bunk. People were just casually saying, what do you want to bet they got this wrong? Why is that conversation happening? But by the way, this conversation happened between a whole bunch of people who write or have written for tech sites. I should add that in. It did not, for whatever reason, happen at the tech sites. It happened elsewhere, as people are asking, why did no one check this? Or why did no one check this properly? Tech sites have become a problem. I am going, I know, hot take here, but yeah, tech sites are actually getting really dumb. Okay. So am I going to be doing another rant about this? There was another topic I knew I was going to rant about where tech sites were screwing stuff up, but I honestly can't remember what it was now. Though I do have something sort of distantly adjacent to that I'm going to talk about at the end. Okay, so I think that about hits that topic. It's reasonably good. Also, hello, David. How's it going? If only... Well, I mean, technically, we haven't totally gotten rid of net neutrality. We've gutted some of its basic core tenets, but, it's not gone. Not entirely. Anyway, so let's see. Man, I really don't know how deep I want to go into this, but I guess we need to talk about OpenAI. Because clown show. OpenAI's situation has become hilarious. As everyone liked to say, and for good reason, OpenAI went through 3 CEOs in as many days. They bounced. How much do I even repeat of this? I guess if anyone wants to come back to this and listen to this story, that it might be worth repeating at least the super quick, early stage of the story. So Friday of last week, it was actually late on Friday of last week. It was announced that the CEO of OpenAI, who is Sam Altman. Sorry, took me a second to remember his first name. Sam Altman was unceremoniously fired. The board of directors did a very swift vote, unannounced. They did not communicate with any of the other investors. They did not discuss this with apparently one other board member. I think it was one other board member was left out of the vote. They just decided to hold a vote, and among those who did vote, unanimously decided to kick out Sam Altman, and in the process, they also booted a few other employees, and I don't remember the names of everybody else, but yeah, a few people were kind of given the door very suddenly. This turned into absolute utter chaos over the weekend. This just exploded. So Microsoft CEO Satya, I never can remember his last name. I always just think of it as Satya. Let's see. Satya Nadella. He got very closely involved in this story, basically pushing to quickly either reinstate Sam Altman or to find a CEO that was, let's just say, amenable to Microsoft. It so much so that he basically stepped in and managed this whole situation. He's since given a couple of interviews where he even said basically that one way or the other, Sam Altman was still going to be closely tied to Microsoft. He even technically publicly claimed to have hired Sam Altman, though that's now no longer the case, or at least it doesn't seem to be. Either way, he basically gave Sam a guaranteed safety net. Somehow, one way or the other, Sam would continue effectively working for Microsoft, whether it's under OpenAI or as an actual Microsoft employee. In the meantime, they have since negotiated to reinstate Sam as CEO of OpenAI, and the board that voted him out has been completely replaced, or will be replaced. I'm not actually sure if all of them have been replaced yet. I know one or two have. Anyway, so it has taken a few days, and very amusingly, all of this was basically sorted out before the opening bell of the stock market on Monday. But it has taken a few days. We're now effectively at a state of reset. Aside from the board being replaced, Sam Altman is now back in charge of OpenAI. And OpenAI is basically the company it was a week ago. But they've just changed the board members, effectively. I don't know if they've brought back on every one of the former employees, but let's assume that most have been brought on. I do remember there was at least one person, I forget his name now, but there was one person who had announced that they were also fired as part of kicking out Sam. And in the process of doing this, the person basically asked for help finding a new job, and he was offered a new job within 2 hours of asking. And I don't know if he's going back to OpenAI or taking that job. I'm assuming that this is a story a few people probably could tell, but I don't know. Anyway, at one point during this fracas, there was something like, I want to say it was 600 out of the 700 and some people. I might have those numbers off a little bit, but most of the company basically signed to a letter saying that they would quit and leave for Microsoft as soon, or basically if Altman wasn't reinstated as CEO. This even led to, evidently, Microsoft had cleared office space, was setting up desks and allocating computers in preparation for this. So Microsoft evidently was ready. Yes, it was Benioff. Yeah, this was the post, or I think it was. Let's see. As Twitter takes an age and a half. Seriously, can you load? Oh, no, wait, that's okay. Salesforce will match any OpenAI researcher who has tendered their resignation full cash and equity to immediately join our Salesforce Einstein Trusted AI research team under Silvio Savarese. The Einstein is the most successful enterprise AI platform, completing 1 trillion predictive and generative transactions this week. Well, that's awfully not. But this was not. Oh, wow. That is not the message you should follow with. Take the red pill. Dude, no. No. Uh-oh. Wait. Am I still streaming? Am I still streaming? Because I'm getting a big yellow warning saying not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. What's going on here? Normally, like, sometimes this flashes up for like a second or so and then disappears. Oh, great. So YouTube might be having a problem? Yeah. This is... Okay, David sees me, so... Weird. Okay, well, I'll keep going and hope that this doesn't turn into a total weird disaster. Yeah, I mean, the error message is definitely still here, though. Um, ah, it just disappeared. Okay, hopefully it stays gone. Um, anyway, so was there anything else about this that was neat? I mean, I could talk about some of Sam's various comments. I don't think they're particularly interesting. A few of them will make for some good memes, but that's about it. Regardless, yeah, everybody. I think realistically, every company also looked at this and basically said, "Hey, anyone who worked for OpenAI, if you'd like to come get a job with us, we'll hire you." Or at least that's my guess. Seems like a lot of them were quiet about it, but obviously a few of them, like Salesforce, were trying real hard to poach whoever they could. Let's see. One thing I did find kind of amusing. So in this article from The Verge, they managed to get a hold of, or somebody leaked, obviously someone sent out this internal memo. But it was an internal memo from the CTO at Microsoft, Kevin Scott. Sorry, had to find the name. So this internal memo, or wait, was this? Sorry. Wait, was this Kevin Scott's message, or was it Satya Nadella's? Sorry, quickly skimming. Okay. So yeah, Kevin Scott basically just confirmed, things are kind of on track, blah blah blah. What I found hilarious about this, if you take the time to read it, I think it is absolutely okay, it is that one. Yeah, double checking that I've got the right one. So Kevin Scott's message actually has something kind of hilarious in the second paragraph. If you read through this, it is basically like, the first paragraph is basically saying, hey, everything seems to be stabilized and resolved, and we're doing good work, and they're doing good work, and everything's wonderful. The second paragraph is basically, hey, all this stuff happened, but let's make sure everyone knows about all the things that we just launched. And it proceeds to go into, I'm not kidding, this is like 100 words solid of just pure advertising. I will even just read it, because it's so obvious once you think of it in that light. It's just blatant, like, hey, we know this message is going to get leaked, so we're just going to throw this in here so people don't miss all the announcements. So just reading it straight. Despite the potential of the past few days to distract us, both Microsoft and OpenAI scientists and engineers have been working with undiminished urgency. Since Friday, Azure has deployed new AI compute. Our newly formed MSR AI feature. Is that AI or A1? Sorry, I think that's A1. Our newly formed MSR A1 Frontiers organization published their new cutting-edge research, Orca 2, and OpenAI continued to ship product like the new voice features in ChatGPT that rolled out yesterday. Any of these things alone would have been the accomplishment of a quarter for normal teams. 3 such achievements in a week, with a major US holiday and with a huge amount of noise surrounding us, speaks volumes to the commitment, focus, and sense of urgency that everyone has. It is both humbling and inspiring to be part of an amazing team at Microsoft, and to have the privilege of working with the team at OpenAI. I mean, yeah, they were just like, nah, we know everyone's going to read this. Let's just tell everyone about the cool stuff that we just launched, because they don't care to actually cover this in the news, so we'll force them to. Anyway, this whole stretch has just been, I mean, it's kind of a comedy show. It really is. I I gotta give credit to Sam, because you gotta figure that if he wasn't before, he is now. He probably has an income that is through the roof compared to what it was before. I sincerely doubt that he returned without getting a raise. And I imagine a few of the other senior level people at OpenAI, probably similar story. They were all, I expect, either given or brought back with some sort of increased pay. I imagine Microsoft's investment in OpenAI has probably been elevated in some way, shape, or form. I bet whoever... I strongly suspect Microsoft effectively has a seat at the table, like officially now. I don't think that's been confirmed, but if it hasn't been, let's just assume it will be. And I have a feeling that Microsoft's involvement with OpenAI is probably going to get even closer and tighter. We'll see, but yeah, it's gonna happen. As a minor note, the Verge writer who wrote this, Tom Warren. Tom Warren brought up an interesting point, or, sort of interesting point. A good PR. Well, I would say the PR is right now good for OpenAI, just because all of a sudden people who were already OpenAI fans are just going to be like all that more jazzed. But yeah, anyway, Tom Warren brought up an interesting question, asking where would Altman have fit into Microsoft's org structure? So, here's the thing. There is already a person whose job is to head up AI. That's, sorry, it was, Kevin Scott. So Kevin Scott is already in charge of this. It's already his job to have effectively been a CEO, or at least senior leadership of any AI efforts. So the question became, where would Altman fit in? You can't just hire... You could have co-CEOs, but that probably wasn't going to work. And as many people have pointed out, Altman's ego probably was not going to allow for something like this. Realistically, I look at this and I think what they were probably going to do is make Altman sort of the... he was going to be the ideas guy. He was going to be the sort of... I'm trying to think of a good term and title. But I think he would have been something of the... Let's call it the religious leader. He would have been the Pope of AI. He would have been the guy who gets up on stage and talks about all the big, amazing things that AI would do. And then I think Kevin Scott's job was going to be to get up on stage and then take the sort of toned down approach and say, here's the products we're going to make. Here are the products that are going to use AI. And that would have been it. I think these two would have taken two completely different roles in their stage presence, in who they're talking to, why they're talking to anyone. And ultimately, I think Kevin Scott's job would have been to tell people why this is worth money, while Sam Altman's job would have been to, hype it up and make it seem like Microsoft had just cracked the code to the next 2 decades of world domination. So, we'll see. That there's obviously a lot of... There's a lot that can happen from here. I do honestly question what this is going to look like in terms of OpenAI's involvement with Microsoft and vice versa. Because they've already been closely tied together. Bing Chat was basically just ChatGPT 3.5, I think it was. And presumably now has some of the features of 4. We're basically just kind of looking at sort of a it's sort of two companies that are so closely linked together that they're virtually inseparable now. Kind of like how Nokia was with Microsoft for a while. Though that was at least a hardware and software partnership, which this is... AI is not that. But at this stage, I think it's on par. Like, we can plainly see Microsoft sort of owns this path. And other companies obviously can license OpenAI access, but it's not the same thing. They do not have the same level of integration that Microsoft is getting. Microsoft has been known to use various things from ChatGPT and from OpenAI as a whole in their other products, and in particular their Copilot stuff. So I think it's safe to say that at this stage, Microsoft is probably the single largest factor in what keeps OpenAI on whatever path it is on. I could be wrong, but it seems like a safe enough assumption. Okay, so with that, I think there's really not a lot more to say on this story, at least not that I can really think of. I will quickly interject. If anybody has any other stories that they want me to hit, chances are I've read them. I just didn't think about turning them into topics for today. Feel free to drop them in chat. But I do have one other thing to talk about that comes to mind. Like I said, this is probably going to be a short stream. We're just crossing an hour right now, and the thing I'm going to babble about next probably won't go for super long. But if anybody has topics, like I said, feel free, drop them in. But I'm going to talk about an action camera. Yes, I'm totally talking about an action camera. This is real. So, for reasons I can't begin to explain, Insta360, and yes, I am going to kind of make fun of them just a little bit here. Insta360 decided to actually launch a product on Thanksgiving week. I think that's daring. Yay, camera talk. I think it's really daring to launch a product, a tech product, on the week of Thanksgiving, 2 days before Thanksgiving. And I know, believe me, I know, the U.S. is the only one that supports or that does Thanksgiving, so it's not like that is the biggest deal. It would be kind of insane to think that the world should schedule around us. But also, there are some things that you just don't mess with, and this is one of them. The U.S. tries to avoid scheduling stuff to happen during Chinese New Year. But, you know, it still happens. But any company that does a lot of worldwide business kind of knows not to screw with that one. Likewise, most companies kind of know not to announce anything at this time. And not only that, but also because Black Friday. Do you want to launch your product and immediately have people saying, well, do we get Black Friday discounts on it? Because, you know, it is what it is. Now, I'm picking on them for this, but I am going to... That's kind of mostly the end of any picking on the Insta360 I'm going to do. I do have one other thing I'm going to bring up, but we'll get to that. Anyway, so this is what it looks like. This is the Insta360 Ace Pro. They also have a non-pro version that is just the Insta360 Ace. They really did not tell us much about this in the pre-briefs, but or they didn't tell us much about the lower tier version. They mostly told us about the pro version. Anyway, good looking camera. If you're looking at the screen, you may have noticed that there's a under or over the camera lens. They put prominent presence for the name Leica, which I can tell you right now, when you actually look at the camera, I'm holding it in my hand right now. When you look at the camera, it is really hard to spot the Leica name right there. I mean, it is practically invisible. And actually, the text below is very nearly invisible too. In fact, you really have to get it in the right light to even see that it's there. And it's printed so small, like I have to kind of get really close to even see it. Anyway, not important. But as you can also see from this picture, it has a flippy screen. So anyway, this is the camera. No big surprise there. Insta360 did send this to me a little bit before the embargo time. Not super far ahead because of reasons. It's not their fault. I'll just say that. And anyway, yes, it has a flip screen, which actually locks in place, which makes it kind of good as an action camera feature. This is the first action camera or true action camera that has had a flip screen. Technically, arguably there was one that came before this, and it was also Insta360's. The Go 3 has a similar feature. So, yeah, you know. The difference, though, calling this an action camera is a little weird because the Go 3 is the one where you can remove the camera module, and the big block here is more just kind of a battery and remote viewer thing. So I wouldn't, and this is not waterproof. Or, well, the little pill camera module is waterproof. The rest of it is not. The big actual part that looks like an action camera is not waterproof. So, yeah. That one is not meant for abuse. It's good for vlogging purposes, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't put it onto a snowboard in that form, or onto a surfboard especially, because you will destroy part of that one. The Ace and Ace Pro, those are meant for the GoPro level of abuse. They definitely feel, this thing feels more rigid. It has a removable, very difficult to remove, but it actually has a removable lens cover. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's an action camera. You get the basic principle on this. But there are a few things about this that are kind of unique and interesting. Now, I said that I had one last thing to pick on Insta360 for, and it's going to be the first thing I mention. This camera can actually shoot in 8K. This is an action camera that can shoot in 8K. For those who follow cameras, let's just say you can go buy, I don't want to pull it out of the bag, but you could go buy a $2,000 camera right now from Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, basically any of the others. $2,000. And at that price, it won't come with a lens. It still doesn't shoot 8K. There are a few that do. Certainly there are cameras out there that shoot 8K. That's not unheard of. But very few. Very few cameras shoot 8K. And of the ones that do, one, they're usually upwards of like $3,500 to $4,000 territory. Again, you're still talking about before the cost of adding a lens. And yeah, they're expensive. This is a tiny little device that can shoot 8K, and I think this is $500. I actually forgot to check the price again. Oh, sorry, $450. For $450, it can shoot 8K. Now, notably, it's 8K at 24 frames per second. Most of the cameras that I'm talking about that are the, expensive dedicated cameras with interchangeable lenses, the whole 9 yards. If the ones that can shoot 8K, most of them can go over 24 frames a second. For the most part, you don't get to 8K without also supporting at least like 30 and 60 frames a second. Not much shoots above that. I will add. Anyway, this this is kind of madness to me. I have okay, so the part I'm going to pick on Insta360 for, though, is they had me update the firmware as soon as I got it. Very notably, the firmware that was on there and the firmware that I updated to, neither one supported 8K recording. The firmware that supports 8K recording shipped yesterday, after the embargo was over. And now I have not had a chance to actually test it yet. Well, I had a chance, but I didn't have the time. Because I was testing other things with it. Anyway, yeah, so I have not tested the 8K, but I have a feeling that's the goal. I think they shipped the firmware knowing full well that most people were not going to get around to trying out 8K, or they didn't want people to try out the 8K recording before their embargo was up. That way all the reviews would get posted and nobody would be able to comment on whether or not the 8K looks good, or at least wouldn't be comparing it to other things. So I find that to be a little, a little bit of a cheap method, but whatever. I'm going to ignore that for the rest of this discussion and just say Insta360's done it again. I've reviewed now the Insta360 Go, or well, Go 3 specifically. That is, again, the little one with the little miniature removable camera. I love this thing. This is great. The ability to just put that camera anywhere is awesome. I've reviewed the Insta360 Flow. That is their smartphone gimbal. The thing I said about both of them, well, I know I said this in the review for the Flow. I'm not as certain that I said it in the review for the Go 3. But the thing I remember saying is Insta360's done something the other companies that have been in this space for years aren't doing. They're actually trying to build things that people will use. They're trying to be smart about it. They're doing really clever things with their products. Some of it is also so obvious. Again, why has there not been an action camera with a flip screen? Why is this something that GoPro has not done after all these years? GoPro is on the 12 Black. That means they've had 11 before their current generation, and it's actually more than that because they've done more than just the Black series. They've had 12 cameras to come up with this idea and still haven't done it. DJI kind of did it. They at least had the Action 2, which had these interchangeable magnetic modules. That's the word that I screwed up. Interchangeable magnetic modules that you could just snap together. And one of them was a screen that was it's not as big as this, but it's a screen that snaps onto the camera module, and it was turned around so you could see yourself in it. Useful. But still not the same thing. I'm curious why it took this long for a company to turn around and say, you know what? Yeah, let's just put a screen on this that flips around. Why did this take so long? I truly cannot figure that out. So as products go, and this is kind of where I decided I was going to turn this into a bit of a topic. We need more companies that do this. We need more companies that are going to sit there and say, hey, users could actually want something to be better here. Let's design products that are designed to actually serve users better. Let's get back to that innovative quality, because Insta360 is doing it. I mean, action cameras are one of those things. I watched reviews for, and one of these days I will post a review for the GoPro 12 Black. If you watch reviews for the 12 Black, you're going to find one after another, every single one of them saying it's a really good camera. It's an upgrade to the 11 Black. But if you have an 11, should you get a 12? Nah. Every single review said that. And most of them even said if you're upgrading from a 10, same story. Like, just don't bother. The only reason you should upgrade your old GoPro to a 12 is if it's either really, really old, like we're talking a 7 or an 8, maybe a 9, or if you're getting your first one. Like, get the latest one just because. Otherwise, just don't. Just don't bother upgrading. And hey, look, I'm not out here singing the praises of always upgrade as fast or frequently as possible. That's not at all what I would say. But I look at what Insta360 did with this, and I think they improved so many things over what GoPro has been doing over the years. They upped their specs by leaps and bounds over GoPro, and actually over DJI too. On their very first action camera. I mean, again, this is the first time Insta360 is doing a like full-fledged official action camera. How is it that these other companies haven't come up with some of this stuff yet? They've really just let their product category kind of stagnate. And the more I think about it, the more it's like, I feel like the same thing has happened with phones. I feel like it's happened with a lot of products. We're looking at so many things where, sure, the product got better, the specs got better. And yes, we've seen companies make just horrible mistakes with some attempts to be a little too ambitious. Moto Mods and LG Friends being particularly phenomenal examples of trying to come up with something big and ultimately really fumbling the ball. So it happens. I mean, you shouldn't necessarily take the largest leaps, but at some point you also should try to look at some things and say, yeah, we can improve a handful or dozen little things that other companies just aren't able to do, don't want to do, whatever. Why is this the hardest thing with products right now? So David said, underrated company. I don't always hear from them, but when I do, it's always impressive. Yeah, that's it. Like, Insta360, their whole thing was just 360 cameras at first, thus the name. And the fact that they did the Go cameras, like, those were just kind of new and different. No one's really done that kind of a thing before. But in the last year, they decided that they were going to do gimbals and a full-fledged action camera. Both of these came out, and while yes, there are a few things about the gimbal that I would say aren't going to be for everybody, for the most part, the gimbal has completely superseded anything that DJI and Zhiyun have put out at the size category. I should throw that in at that size category. Both DJI and Zhiyun have way bigger gimbals for like full size cameras that's a totally different category, and those things are impressive. They're actually excellent gimbals in their size categories, which kind of makes me think maybe Insta360 should also break into the full size camera category. I don't think they're going to, but it would be great. And then they come out with an action camera that, same story. Like, this is just so much better than the other action cameras that have come out. And it's hard not to question, like, maybe we're just at that point where we need new companies to kind of come in and shake up the old news. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not trying to do sales pitch on an action camera, but just acknowledging that this is, to me, more than just an action camera being a good thing. It's a company showing that we need to have more companies doing this kind of thing. Um, let's see. What else? Oh, and if anyone watches reviews for this, and again, I'm working on my own, there will be, you'll see some neat things. Like they've got a custom chip in this thing that actually does like a bunch of AI processing. It can pick out like featured moments in a clip. It does this on the camera instead of having to move it all over to an app to do it on your phone and stuff like that. They also have a feature of the app. You can paint certain objects on the screen, and it will you can have it do like AI. Let's see, can I imagine the Verge article probably has something about this here. Is this going to be it? No. Okay. I don't think they've done it yet. Anyway, they have an AI feature where you can paint certain objects on the screen, and it will it'll do that like rapid AI, like flipping through different versions of things, and it just looks really neat when you see it. It's one of those things that'll get overused very, very quickly. Let's see. I'm sure if I hunt... oh, actually, I'll just pull up Insta360's video. I'm sure that'll be... I'm sure they'll have it in here somewhere. No, not there. Oh, it also has better low light visibility, which apparently is also AI based. Here it is, the AI warp feature. So you can paint parts of the screen and have them like AI replaced and stuff like that. They've got some really neat stuff in here. Again, that's gonna get overused like crazy, but it looks like an actually really neat feature for the rare cases that it should be used. Let's see. Carson, man, the AI wireless transfer is woefully incompetent. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. See, there's a lot of reasons why I don't like doing transfers anyway. And you say you think you can never do a in-store trade-in with how much stuff didn't transfer. Yeah, okay, so first off, I would not recommend to most people doing... Well, let me come back to that topic in a second, because I have comments, and I think I should probably wrap up what little I'm saying, or what little I have left to say on this. Actually, I can't think of what I was going to say. Point is, neat camera. I'm looking forward to getting more done with this review. One other small thing, and man, I forgot to set up like an affiliate link for this. If anyone's interested, let me know and I'll set up an affiliate link. But one of the things that they also sent with this was an accessory that it's black, so I don't know how visible this will really be on screen, but it's an accessory that is like kind of just looks like a handle, and unsurprisingly it's a tripod. You know, simple little thing like this. It also extends this part out, so it's actually a handy like selfie stick, tripod, the whole works. But it also has one other neat little feature to it. In one of the legs, it has this little clip that pops out, and so you can use this to like, I'm just gonna kind of wait, can I demonstrate with a blocks or something. Yeah, that's not quite enough. Anyway, the point is you can like wedge this over like a lip or surface, and it just holds it like this. So, you know, if you're like walking by a brick wall or something, you can kind of hook this onto it, and that way you don't necessarily need flat surfaces to put a tripod on. Really neat thing. The company that makes this, it's PGY Tech. They did a partnership with Insta360 for this one. They've been kind of one of those companies that's been on the come up with YouTubers, and I've actually had a earlier version of this on my wish list for like a year. I've been tempted to buy it for ages, and then now that they sent it, yay! I'm happy to have it. I've already put it to some use a few times. Anyway, so let's see. Now Carson, oh boy. So Carson, yeah, first off, I don't really like doing the wireless, or I like doing transfers to my phones. I've done it several times in the past, and I've always found stuff gets missed. Things often don't work. You always still have to start up each app individually, try it out, log half of them you still have to log in again. The thing is, with the amount of work that you still have to do with a transfer, wired or wireless, I mean, because you're saying it, is it just me, or is your camera lagging? No, YouTube broke earlier, and I think it's still breaking. So no, I don't think it's just you. It's hard to tell. And when you say lagging, do you mean the audio is out of sync with the camera, or is it something else? Anyway, yeah, beyond that, I don't really know. Any number of things could be wrong, because YouTube's glitch earlier was wonky. Anyway, so the experience that I've had transferring data from one phone to another has always been bad. Various things get left behind, and when you try to do that, like I said, you have to start up every app, because one of the things, I don't think people have necessarily noticed this, any apps that get transitioned have a tendency to kind of get broken. Like they are given certain permissions, they are given certain access, but they're not given everything, because that's part of the security model for Android. So basically, you still have to set up everything. Every app that gets transitioned, you have to open it up, make sure that it has had a chance to request its permissions, to activate its... Yeah, there's something wrong with YouTube. I just got another warning saying that the bitrate is too low. Oh, and it's caching even on my screen. I'm getting spinning loops. It's a good thing that I'm going to keep this one short. Anyway, so the again, yeah, you have to log in every single app. You have to make sure that every single app's open so that it can do its push request like setup process, push notification setup process. You have to make sure that they've all had a chance to do upgrades and conversions that sometimes don't happen very well on a new phone. And the mere fact that you're going to also have, the fact that you have to go through each app and do this, I feel like that kind of defeats the benefit, And the fact that it can introduce bugs and errors and weird behaviors just as a result of setting up all these apps using sort of dirty data, that basically takes away any last advantage that you had from the transition. So to me, the only time it's ever worth doing a transfer, the only time it's worth that, is for save games that you can't get from like logging into a service or doing something else. So if you need to move a save game, or I have one very specific annoyance example, Pocket Casts. And I'm sure this is true with other podcast players, but if you have a backlog on any podcast you're listening to, and that podcast does not have old episodes in a long archived index, the problem is sometimes you will just lose the history on some of your old podcasts. Not lose the history, but however far back their archive goes, that's how many episodes back the podcast player can actually correctly pull from. So yeah, this is a dumb issue that it's actually a problem with podcasts in general. I blame Pocket Cast for not handling it better, but there are others that are also really bad at this. It's something that should be fixed. Everybody should fix this, but whatever. The point is, if you have a lot of old podcast episodes downloaded and queued up, and they fall behind that current stack of what's in the index, then the only way to move those to the new phone is through a transfer now. You used to be able to use other tools for doing this. It's not possible now. So, yeah, that is those are the two reasons I've got for using transfer. Pretty much everything else, I would recommend against it. Granted, that does mean a longer setup time in most cases, but I think it's a more accurate and concise setup. It's more likely to work correctly, and overall, I think it leads to a happier device, let's say. So yeah, that's that. Also, I would just strongly recommend against wireless transfer anyway. Use a cable. It's faster. Well, unless you're using like a really old USB 2 cable. But if you've got a USB 3 or better cable, use that. Plug two devices together. If you are going to do a transfer, do that. You will save so much time. And I will also quickly throw in, because I know that this sounds like I'm just kind of bagging on Android, but I'm sorry, the same is true with Apple. If you're transitioning iPhones, they're better at it. I don't deny this for a second. Apple is absolutely better at it, but it's still not good. It was just 2 years ago. It was about 2 years ago, I think. My aunt moved from SE1 to an SE2. I don't know. Whenever that was, I did the transition for her. I mean, I know what I'm doing. It's not like it's that hard to follow the on-screen prompts. I had to attempt it like 6 times before it worked correctly. This is not something that should have to require multiple attempts. And every time, like, I had to wipe the phone and try again because stuff just kept not working. That's not okay. Apple's not good at this either. And a lot of people love to say, oh, it works for me every time. Really? Are you sure? Are you really sure? Because it's funny how often people I know who know what they're doing plug in a new iPhone, start setting it up, and they know what they're looking for. They know to check things. And it's amazing how often various people have popped up saying, oh yeah, no, a lot of stuff worked, but I can, they could name like 10 different apps that were broken, and the only way to fix them was to uninstall them and reinstall. Or they noticed some things were left out of the transition. There's a lot of this story happening. It just doesn't get a lot of attention because, admittedly, Apple is better at it, but they're not perfect. And so when it happens, people just seem to kind of brush it off. Let's see. Anyway, but yeah, my general advice, don't use it. If you can avoid using the transfer, try to. Or if you are going to do a transfer as little as possible. Keep it to just the things that you can't handle any other way. And I would argue, like, some of your system settings, probably okay to transfer. But when it comes to apps, no, just install them fresh, install them new, do the manual setup. Yes, sometimes that means going screen by screen and matching config screens and stuff like that, but it's worth it. Let's see. Okay, so I had read this before, but just catching back up. You said that the audio is in sync, but the camera kind of freezes and then catches up. Yeah, I think that's YouTube related, but it could be an OBS issue. I really don't have a good way of knowing. I suppose I could technically probably quit OBS, restart it, and try to start the stream again, but yeah, it's not worth it. Let's see. Tensor server overheating. That's kind of funny. Setup process prompted me to do the wireless transfer. You think it's new this time around? No. I don't think that's new. Or if it is, no, I could be wrong. I'd swear that they've had wireless transfer, just maybe they've changed what their emphasis is on. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they didn't have wireless transfer before. And maybe it was only wireless transfer between pixels. I don't know. Michelle said it was. Okay, well, maybe. But yeah, regardless, transfer, I mean, it's still wireless versus wired. It's still the same thing. It's just a different connectivity protocol or type. Regardless, it's still the same transfer mechanism, and that's what I consider to be broken. And hello, Curvy, how's it going? And yeah, you kind of are here last minute because I think I'm out of topics. We're just kind of now talking about this transfer process. But yeah, the transfer process, just I get it, but I really wish that they would try. I want to see Google push for a different type of backup, restore, and transfer process where apps can literally just output something that is restorable that people can actually handle and do something with. So kind of like Titanium backup. People should be able to take their backups in whatever, in some sort of an exportable format and just be able to load those up selectively. And honestly, like, think about how great this would be for sort of like fleet management. This is a thing on Windows. Like, you can, well, on every major desktop OS, every single one of them, you can create scripts. You can do automated processes. So when you set up a device, all you have to do is take it like through the first couple of steps, and then you click a couple of buttons, maybe access something. In the case of Windows, you can even do what's called slipstream installs, where you create an ISO that is actually like prepared with the stuff pre-configured to install in the process. Like, you just go through your normal setup process, but at a certain point it just takes over and starts installing setting up configs, doing the whole 9 yards. Like these, if you've ever seen this done, or if you've ever done it yourself, it is magical, comparatively speaking. It is so awesome. Why don't we have this on phones? And I want the ability, like I personally would love the ability to say, oh, here are 30 apps. I know the configuration on them is correct. And if the developers are reasonably smart and competent about it, what they'll do is just write code that supports this properly. Because I know a lot of them have tried. I've personally tried to write backup code for Android, and I know a lot of developers who've tried writing it. And that includes I think we've now had 4 different backup systems, backup and restore capabilities built into Android. None of them have ever worked right. Some of them have worked, but very tenuously. So if we're going to have this, like give us this ability to just output some sort of a config restore process. And then developers can be encouraged to write for that process. Basically a config file that they output, and then they can input back themselves. And that's it. Straightforward, clean, simple. Don't get you started on the autofill app sign-in disaster. Yeah. That is a special level of hell. It's amazing how many apps, one, either don't support it, or two, it doesn't ever work right. Or a few of them, I've noticed several of them actually, have the whole process broken where they take that information, they use it partially, but then they still make you sign in again anyway. Like they actually do pull your login information and they sign in properly, but they make you still sign in one more time just because. Like, why? What is that for? Let's see. It's only like 3 apps that support smart lock. Yeah, I think for any one person, that's about as many as you'll get. I'm sure there are obviously more, but it's not many, and it's definitely not many. What in the world now? Yeah, I'm getting some weird errors off YouTube. What does it think my? Yeah, that's not the bitrate I'm sending it. Something's goofy. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, through all of this, let's put it this way. I don't have confidence that Google is going to do this right. Not anymore. They've kind of blown that confidence. And given that if Google's not going to do it right, I do know developers who want to do it right. And yeah, I'm ending after this anyway, so it's all good. I'm just finishing up this thought. But at this stage, please, Google, just let us have the ability to manage this manually. And then, you know what? Let's have a folder that we can just put our backup files into that can write in Google Drive. That's fine. And then we can just pick it and say, all right, set up the device for me using these config files. And that's it. That's what we should have. And it sounds a lot like what is already there, but it's not. Anyone who's used what's already there, especially if you've written the code to actually support it, it's amazing how much it is not done that way. It does not work that way, and it is broken. So please fix this, Big G. I'm begging you. You're our only hope. Anyway, all right, Curvy, I'm mad. We had BBQ pulled pork for dinner before Turkey Day dinner tomorrow. Friday is makeup Thanksgiving with some of... Okay. Carson, yeah, I might have to call it a stream. Gonna take off and watch some basketball. Well, That works out well because I am officially now out of topics. So I am going to first off wish everyone a excellent Thanksgiving, I hope. Good luck with your Black Friday shenanigans. If you haven't already done your purchases, or if you're awaiting more things to go on sale, good luck on all of the hunting. I've picked up a couple things. One of them is probably not due for about a week. I will share the story when that one gets here. And there's still one more thing I might pick up. I don't know. I'm trying to decide if it's worth the money. But yeah, with that, I'm going to take off. Oh, by the way, heads up for anyone who follows the movie post, check it out. It was I updated it today because this is a weird week. Stuff comes out. A lot of stuff came out today. There will also be an update on Friday. If for no other reason than a few movies hit the theaters on Friday, there should also be at least a few more streaming releases coming out on Friday. There will be a couple things tomorrow, but who cares? It's so little coming tomorrow. So yeah, if anyone is looking for movies, check it out. It's I do keep it updated. Anyway, huge thanks to Carson, Austin, David, Diablo, and Curvy, who most of you actually made it in for stream today. All except Diablo. Miss you, bud. So huge thanks to all of you guys for supporting the channel. You've all been awesome. David, I will answer that in a second. And for anyone who happens to catch the stream later tomorrow, or sorry, not tomorrow, but in the future, if you'd like to help support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. Any amount is helpful and welcome. Let's see. Streaming tomorrow. The answer to that is a no. I have sort of tentative plans. They're not really firmed up plans yet, but I do have some tentative plans where I might go meet one or possibly two of my best friends. Maybe tonight. Tonight's really uncertain, but definitely tomorrow. And it's unclear so far exactly what the schedule is going to be for tomorrow, but it seems like I'm probably going to spend most of a day with them, I think. I still don't really know exactly. And I'm going to be, whenever I'm not doing that, I'm probably going to be trying to get caught up on like writing reviews. And I'm starting a coding project that I just have needed to do for a long time. I'm dying to do it. I may or may not get that kicked off somewhere this weekend, but I'm going to try. As for streaming, there is a possibility of a Friday stream. I wouldn't bank on it. It's pretty low likelihood, but it could happen. Saturday and Sunday for sure. I will be gaming those days. So yeah, I was going to try for doing one tomorrow, but that was before I found out that a friend of mine's coming into town. So kind of threw off much of a streaming plan. Anyway, so again, thank you all for coming by, hanging out, being part of the stream. I hope this one was entertaining. If nothing else, we got to make fun of Big Tech because holy crap, Big Tech made it easy this week to make fun of. For those who missed the earlier portions of the stream, it was a fairly tight stream. Kept it kind of quick. But with that, I hope you all an excellent weekend, long weekend, and I will talk to you in Discord or whenever. And with that, good night, everybody.